So I was telling you that cumulative average time per unit when two units were made together, the per unit time was 9.6. And now if I want to calculate the total times, it's going to be 9.6 into 2. So the total time for two units was 19.2. So if I know the total time for the first unit and total time for the two units, the total time for two units and the total time for the first unit, if I actually minus the total time for the two units from the deduct the total time for the first unit for the total time for the two units, it will actually give me the time taken for the second unit. So the time taken for the second unit, if I know the first unit took 12 hours, so the second unit has taken how much time? Second unit has taken 7.2 hours. So definitely there's learning there. But the learning flaw drops by fixed percentage. It doesn't apply to the incremental units. No, always the learning applies to the cumulative average time per unit actually falls by a fixed percentage, which is equal to the learning rate, which is 80%, for example, in this case, right? So this was the time taken for the first unit, and this is the time taken for the second unit. Now, if I double the output once again, I make two more units. So the cumulative units would be 2 plus 2 would be 4. And now again, the cumulative time per unit would fall again by fixed percentage. The last was 9.6 and into 0.8. Now it will take how much time? 7.68. Or if I start from very front, very start, so it would be 12 into 0.8, yeah, and then into 0.8. Like two times I'm applying that rate when the output is doubled for the second time, right? So it becomes 7.68. So now 7.68 into the cumulative number of units are 4 into 4. So now total time for 4 units was 30.72. Yeah. If I know the total time for 4 units and if I know the total time for 2 units, yeah, if I deduct from the total time of 4 units the time taken for the first 2 units, I will actually get the time taken for these two additional units I made. And what are those additional units? Those were 3 and 4. Yeah, those are 3 and third and fourth unit. So how I will get that? 30.72 minus 19.2. This is the time taken. 11.52 is the time taken. 11.52 is the time taken for third and fourth unit combined. It doesn't tell you that the third unit and this is the time for third and fourth unit combined. It doesn't really tell you what is the incremental time on third unit and fourth unit. This is what approach? This is the double approach. There are two ways you can actually calculate the cumulative average time per unit. There are two approaches for that. One is the double approach. Just like we were doing that as the output doubles, how you get the cumulative average time per unit. Yeah, you apply the learning rate to the previous average. Yeah, that's what we have been doing. Yeah, to the previous average. Yeah, this is the previous average. If I'm going to make 4 more units, cumulative unit would be 8, and then this is the previous average. I will apply the learning rate of 0.8 to this, and again I will get the time taken for 7.68 into 0.8, which is 6.144. The time taken for 8 units, cumulative average time per unit for 8 units when made together, and then into 8. This will give me the total time for 8 units, which is 849.152. If this is the total time for 4 units and this is the total time for 8 units, if I deduct, it will give me the time taken for these 4 additional units, and which is going to be after 4, it is 5, 6, 7 and 8. Yeah, and I deduct this with this and I will get that time. 49.158 minus 30.724. So it will be 18.428. 18.428. This was for third and fourth unit combined, and this is for 4 unit combined time for 4 unit. It doesn't really tell me what is the time taken for the 5th unit, 6th unit, 7th unit, or 8th unit. There's a flaw in the double approach. It doesn't really tell you the incremental time for 1 unit, for 1 additional unit you're making. This tells for 2 units. This tells for 4 units, and then again if I'm going to double for 8 and then minus the time, it will tell for next 8 units, not the individual time for each unit I'm going to make. So the double approach has got that flaw in it. It doesn't tell you the time taken for each unit. For each unit. Cumulative average time for, the incremental time for each unit in the double approach. Because this was the time taken for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th unit combined. Yeah. So again, follow the rule. Again, if I'm going to double this output, make 8 more units. So 8 plus 8 is going to be 16. And then the learning rate into previous average. Yeah. How you get the cumulative average time per unit. So this has been observed in the manufacturing industry, airplane manufacturing industry back in 1920s, so that cumulative average time per unit is not random. It falls by a fixed percentage. Every time it is, the learning is, for example, 80%. But a time comes when the actually the learning would stop. So time comes when actually the learning would stop. So take 6.144 into 0.8, and then the time taken would be 4.9152. So this goes on, and this will be for 16 units, it will be 78.6432. And for example, if you are asked to calculate that you're done making the 4 units, cumulatively you're done making the 4 units, and now examiner asks you to calculate the time taken for next 12 units, how are you going to do that? How are you going to calculate that? If 4 plus 12 becomes how much? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah. 4, if you have time for 4 units, which is 30.72, an examiner asks you to calculate the time for next 12 units. So the cumulative 12 plus 4 would be 16 in that case. So if examiner asks you what is the time taken for next 12 units, if you already have the time taken for 4 units, which is 30.72, and then you have, see, after 4, if you add 12, what is the cumulative total? It becomes 16. And then you calculate the total time for 16 units, right? So when you take the difference of both these figures, if you deduct the 4 unit time from 16 unit, you will actually be able to get the incremental time for next 12 units using the double approach, right? Minus 30.724. So this is the time, 47.9. Yeah. So that is the double approach. But I told you, just like here in this case, if I want to know the time taken, it will be the time taken for next 8 units, which will be 8, which will be 9. If I deduct from this value, 16 minus 8 for next 8 units, which will be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, right? And it would be how much? Minus 49.152. Yeah. So this will be the time taken. 9.4912. This is for next 8 units, right? So it doesn't really tell you the exact time taken for each one of the unit, like for 9th unit. If I want, for example, the examiner asks you to calculate the time taken for the 9th unit. Then for double approach, you're lost. You can't really calculate. For 16 unit, you can't really calculate that. Because it just gives you the time taken for incremental number of units. Be it 4, be it 1, be it 4, 2, 4, 8. And if it's going to increase by 16, then finally it will be 32. Yeah, for next 16 units, it will tell you the time, not exactly for one particular unit. So there is a flaw in this method. In case you want to calculate the cumulative average time for one particular unit, you will use a formula approach for that. This is a formula approach, then the next method by which I can calculate the cumulative average time per unit, because examiner can give me a question like that in which, for example, 5th unit, 4th unit, 9th unit. So I can't use the double approach for that. So it is formula approach. Next approach is formula approach. Formula approach is also known as incremental unit method. And what is the formula? Formula is y is cumulative average time per unit. Ax raised to the power b, where what is a is will be the time taken for the first unit. Just like in this case, the time taken for the first unit was this 12. Yeah. So where a will be the time taken for the first unit, where a will be the time taken for the first unit, x will be the cumulative number of units, right? Cumulative. X will always be the cumulative number of units. Okay, just like here it was 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, or whatever it was, or whatever examiner asks you, it will always be cumulative number of units. Yeah. For example, if it asks you 4 and the time for next 12 a time for a particular unit, so it will be cumulative. If we make 12 more units, so it will be cumulative. It would always be sum of all, right? X would be cumulative number of units, and B is the learning index. How learning index is calculated? It is calculated as log of learning rate. Learning rate then would be mentioned in the question, just like here it was 80%. So I would always put it in decimal. When I'm calculating the value for B, B is ultimately giving me the value for cumulative average time per unit. Once I have that, I'll be able to calculate. I'll show you how I will be able to calculate the time taken for each incremental unit, which in double approach, I was not able to do that. So how I calculate B learning index 0.8 divided by log of 2. Okay. So for example, if now I want to calculate the time taken for the 16th unit, I will use the formula approach. And how I'm going to do that with the help of this formula. First of all, I should calculate the learning index here. Yeah, let me tell you if I'll show you how to do it in Excel, and because in section C, if it comes, you'll be doing it in Excel. But if it is a question is asked you in section A or section B, you won't be having Excel. So you should know how to do the calculations in Excel, in spreadsheet, as well as on the calculator, right? So on the calculator, I will take 0.8 log. So this is the numerator, divided by 2 log of 2, n equals. So this is what I get here. B is 0.321928. This is B here. Now, if I want to know the time taken for 16 unit, I couldn't have done it with double approach, but how I will be able to do it with formula approach? If I calculate the total time for 16 units, and then I calculate the total time for 15 units, don't you think I'll be able to calculate the time taken for the 16th unit? And then I take the difference of both. First, I calculate the total time for 16 unit, and then I calculate the total time for 15 units, and then take a difference of both values, this and this, and then take a difference. Don't you think I will be able to calculate the time taken for the 16th unit? But how I'm going to do that? With the help of this formula, I'll be needing two things. See, I'll do it in the form of table. It becomes easy. So always whenever you want to calculate a time for one particular unit, for example, 16th unit in this case, always make a table like this. Yeah, table be the same. I told you earlier, cumulative units. Then comes cumulative average time per unit. But here, you won't do just like you were doing it earlier, learning rate into previous average. Not with the help of that, you'll be calculating cumulative average time, but with the help of formula, where y here is cumulative average time per unit. I'll be using the formula. The rest is going to be the same. Then will come the total time and all that. So what I said, first of all, here the cumulative number of units, first of all, would be 16, and then it would be 50. So for that, first of all, in order to get the total time for 16 minutes and total time for 15 minutes, what I need first is this cumulative average time per unit for 16 minutes and cumulative average time per unit for 15 minutes. Then I will multiply the average time per unit with cumulative number of units. Then I will be able to calculate the total time, right? So for that, in order to get the time taken for 16th unit, I will be applying the formula first, which will be the time taken for 16th unit first. Okay. So it will be y equals 8. What was the time taken for the first unit? Time taken for the first unit was 12. And what are the cumulative? Now x would be the cumulative number of units. What are the cumulative number of units? 16 and 15. Will give me a time taken, and then take a difference will give me the time taken for 16. So it will be 16 raised to the power this learning index. And it was in my negative. It always comes as negative figure. Then negative 0.321928. Yeah. So how I'm going to do that on a calculator, let me show you. You'll be having your scientific calculators as well, and do practice it. Okay, if you think you know and you'll do it in the exam and you don't practice it, you'll definitely get panic and you won't be able to gain those precious marks, even if you know. So definitely you need to practice how you're going to do that. So 12 into 16 raised to the power. This x raised to the power, this power sign, okay, that's the one I'm going to use. Raised to the power minus, always put minus, otherwise it will be a wrong answer. 0.321928 bracket close equals. So what is cumulative average time per unit for 16 units? It was always for per unit basis. So it was 4.915201. Okay. So never round off, always take the figures as is. Okay. Otherwise the learning impact just vanishes, right? So this was the cumulative average time per unit for 16 units, right? But it was per unit time. And then I need to multiply it with 16 units in order to get the total time into 16. Yeah, I told you per unit time and then multiply by total units, you will get the total time. So in this column, I get the total time. This is 78.6432. 78.64322. And now I want to calculate, number one was this and number two is I need to calculate the cumulative average time per unit. So time taken for the first unit, A into x raised to the power the same learning index 0.321928. This will give me the cumulative average time per unit I'm looking for, because I want total time for 16 and total time for 15, and then take a difference will give me the total time for 16th unit, right? So I'm looking for the second working now. So it will be 12 into 15 raised to the power minus 0.321928 is equals to this. Sorry, I took it as 2, it was 12. It was 12 into 15 raised to the power minus 0.321928 is equal to, this is the cumulative time per unit. Yeah, so this is the time, cumulative time for 15 units. It is 5.0183915. Okay, so whatever is there in the calculator, I just multiply it with 15. This will give me the total time for 15 units, and it is 75.27587. And then, okay, first I calculated the cumulative average time for 16 per unit for 16 units. Then I calculated cumulative average time per unit for 15 units. Then I got total time for 16 units, and then I got the total time for 15 units. And now if I take the difference of both these figures from 16, if I deduct the time taken for 15 units, it will give me the time taken for 60th unit. Yeah, 78.64322. So this is the answer, 3.36. This is the time taken for the 60th unit. 3673, 3673. Okay. So that's all. By using the incremental unit method or a formula approach, you will be able to calculate the time taken for each individual unit. Okay. So we talked about this, how learning curve can have an impact on the performance management. For example, if you're making a budget from where you started, and then you ignore the learning curve, and you know after 1,000 days the time taken was 2 hours, okay, and then there comes a time where learning will stop. The time will come where cumulative units double, the cumulative average time per unit decreases, but a time will come when the learning will stop. So I take at that very time using the formula approach. For example, after 1,000 units, I say the time actually stops. So I will calculate the time taken for 1,000 units, because now I know any unit above 1,000 unit will take the same time as that of the 1,000th unit. And how I calculate the time taken by the 1,000 unit, just like that I told you, from the from the total time of 1,000 unit, you deduct the total time of 999 units, will give you the time taken for the 1,000 unit, and definitely you will be doing it with the help of the formula approach, not the double approach. And then my standard and planning, all planning and all standard costing and planning would be based upon the time taken it will take for 1,000 unit, not the time taken it took for the first unit. If I'm going to base all my planning, definitely I'll be doing wrong resource allocation, my because my or based upon that, my because it impacts the labor hours, so it impacts the labor cost as well. So definitely it will, my labor cost would be wrong. That will have an impact upon my total cost, or maybe I'll be setting wrong prices and my price would be uncompetitive. So it is linked to performance management. How it is linked to accurate budgeting and setting accurate cost and accurate prices. So this, if you're going to ignore the learning curve, so you always set your standard cost when the learning actually stops, when the learning actually stops. Okay, so double rule, Wright's model doesn't give you, it doesn't give you time taken for each unit. Then formula approach actually gives you the time taken for one particular unit by using this. Okay, learning actually stops at a particular time period. For example, at 50, as you can see here in the graph, at 50 the learning actually stops. Yeah, time in a steady rate is reached is when the learning actually stops. So using formula approach will help you to calculate the nth time, right? If I see that it is the 50th unit at which the learning is stopped, so I'm going to calculate the cumulative average time per unit for 50 units and then multiply it with the total cumulative units in order to get the total time for 50 units, and then cumulative average time for 49 units and per unit, and then multiply it with 49 to get the total time. Once I have the total time for 50 units, I will deduct the total time for 49 units, and then I'll be able to calculate the time it took for 50th unit, and then I'll base all my working upon that. For example, if after 50 units I know the learning has stops, and for additional units will take now the same time that of the 50th unit. And for example, the time taken for the 50th unit was 10 hours. Yeah. And if I know that for 50th unit, it took, the time taken for the 50th unit was 10 hours, for example. And now if I know if I'm going to make 10 more units, it will take the same amount. It will take the same amount of time it took to produce the 50th unit, because there's no more learning, scope of learning, and now the learning will stop. It's not like even if I go drink a water, it actually takes time. So for anything, you will say that the time taken, the graph will be just like this and the time taken would become 0. No, it's not like that. At certain point of time, the learning will stop, and formula unit will help you to identify, and based upon that, You'll be setting all the budgets and everything. Okay. So now I'll move on to the question I have here. So learning curve has an implication. Okay. I will set always, I told you I will always set my standard cost or budgeted cost. I'll always do my planning based upon when the learning actually stops. For example, 50th unit, it was stopping and the time taken was 10 hours, right? So one unit actually takes 10 hours. Okay, for any units more than that, I will just base my budget that one unit takes 10 hours. However, maybe when it started, the time taken for the first unit was, for example, 50 hours. I'm not going to base my budget or do the planning and everything because you know why it is important in the planning, why learning curve is important, because it will help you to accurately estimate your cost accurately, right? If you're going to base your budget that one unit now takes 10 hours only, but if you're going to base your budget that one unit took 50 hours, definitely based upon that, if you have seen that one unit requires 50 hours, maybe you'll be able to produce less. Yeah, based upon that, maybe you'll be able to produce less and then you won't be able to achieve your demand just because your estimates were wrong. But now, after I've produced 1,000 units, now I know the time taken has stopped and now the labor is efficient to produce it in 10 hours. So definitely I'll do all the planning because I need to, first of all, from sales budget, I need to produce my production budget, right? And from production budget, all other budgets gets affected. If I'm going to do inaccurate, for example, labor was a limiting factor and I said that one unit takes about 50 hours, however one unit was taking 10 hours, so maybe based upon that I would say I'll be able to produce less and then I won't be able to produce my sales demand, and then I inaccurately calculated my production units, and then my other budget will get affected as well. For example, the material usage budget would be wrong, and based upon the material usage budget, I will be estimating that how, if I need to produce this amount, how much I will be needing, how much material I will be needing to purchase. Material purchase budget would be linked to that as well. Labor budget is already linked to production units. Yeah, that would get affected as well. Then overhead budget, for example, if absorbed on labor hours, that would also get affected. So overall, my resource allocation, my planning would be wrong. My planning would be wrong. It would lead to inaccurate decision making. Maybe I was, for example, there was one product A and B. I was able to meet the sales demand of 10,000. There was sales demand of 10,000 for A and 15,000 for B. But based upon one unit takes 50 hours, I did all of my, and I was only able to produce 5,000 of A and 10,000 of A. So definitely I was not able to meet my sales demand, and I did inaccurate resource allocation, and I also made inaccurate decision making, and it has definitely would have affected my performance when you had the capacity, but because of your wrong estimates and everything, because you didn't base your budget on the time taken on the time taken to produce one unit when the learning stopped, which was the efficient standard. Based upon the efficient standard, it was the 10 hours, it shouldn't have been the 50 hours, but you did budgeting based upon when you the time it took for the first unit. So definitely based upon your estimate, you said you'll be able to produce less, and definitely it would have impacted your performance. Yeah. And not just planning, it will impact your variances as well, because first you set budget and then you measure the actual performance along with that, right? For example, I said the standard time was 50, however the standard time per unit, the labor should have taken 10, but I set my standard to be 50. The standard was inaccurate, so definitely my labor efficiency variance, if I want to calculate the labor efficiency variance, would be meaningless. Yeah, because now labor, and for example, it comes that labor actually took 10 hours, so definitely this says that labor efficiency variance is adverse. It's just wrong. It's just wrong because you set your standard to be inaccurate, so definitely your labor variance, efficiency variance would be just meaningless, because now standard was 10, and now if labor took 12 hours, so now that too would go adverse. But now if standard time for 50th unit when learning stopped, the standard should have been 10, not 50. And for example, labor took 8 minutes, so now it too favorable. So now it will make the variances meaningful. But if you're not going to incorporate the learning, and in budgeting, you didn't set the budget on the time or the cost on the time, when the learning stopped, definitely it will impact all your resource allocation, all your variances, all it will impact your decision. You may take a wrong decision. It will impact your performance. So it has a huge far-flung impact on your performance. Now again, you have 18 minutes for that. Just try to finish it in 15 minutes. Camco manufactures webcam devices which can provide the live video and audio streams. It has recently been suffering from liquidity problems and hope that these will be eased by launch of its new webcam, which has revolutionary audio and video quality. The webcam is expected to have a product life cycle of 2 years. Market research has already been carried out to establish a target selling price and projected lifetime sales revenue for the product. So right from the start, we said that in that 2 years of life cycle, market research has been carried out, and target selling price, we already know the market price for that, right? The market price is 200. And what is their desirable profit margin? It is 35%. And in this question, what you want to calculate is, in the first part of the question, you need to calculate the target cost of the new webcam. Yeah. So what is the target cost? How you calculate the target cost? You need to know the formula for the target cost. So the target cost is calculated as, target cost is from the market price, you deduct your desirable profit, whatever it is, whether you calculate it from return on investment, whether you do it in with markup, or whether, just like in this question, margin is given. Margin, profit, we know is a percentage of selling price, right? So 200 would be 100%, right? It would be 100% if profit is 35. So 200 divided by 100 into 35 will give me my profit. So the profit is 70. If the market price is 200 and your profit margin is 70 per unit, if you don't know that, let me tell you, from sales less cost is equal to your profit. And it is margin. Margin is profit is percentage of sales. So sales would always be 100%. And if I know my profit is 35% of sales, so rest would be your cost. 100 minus 35, whatever it is, it would be your cost. 100 minus 35. So 65% would be your cost. So just take 35% of 200. If 200 is the selling price, is 100%, and what I want is the profit, which is going to be 35% of 200, and it will be 70. So what would be my target cost now? Yes, guys. 200 minus 70. I want to produce it at a target cost of 130. If I know that the market price is 200 and I cannot increase the selling price. If I'm going to increase the selling price, definitely I will lose my market share. Or other ways, if I am not able to produce it at a target or cost of 130 per unit, I may be reducing or shrinking my margin. So if I don't want to compromise my profits, as well as I can't increase my market price, so I want to make it at a target cost of 130. So the answer is, target cost is 130. So what is the target cost? The answer is 130. A question can be asked in which you are required to calculate the cost gap. Yeah, cost gap. What is the cost gap? Cost gap is basically the difference between the estimated cost. You may have at the current level, if you may have some estimated cost. It could either be based upon the absorption costing, it could either be based upon the life cycle costing. Just like in this question, we estimate our cost based upon the life cycle cost, and it is 160. Estimated cost less target cost. However, there's a cost gap here because estimated cost is 160 and target cost we want to make it at 130. So 30 is the cost gap. If we won't cover the cost gap, if we don't bring 160 down to 130, definitely we won't be able to sell it at 200 and earn a profit of 70, because that was our targeted cost. We need to make So right from the start,